Welcome to another episode of The Wave, the wonderful Alberni Valley experience. I'm your host, Don Texan, coming to you live from our studios in the unceded territories of the Shot and Hoopachesset peoples, where we live, love, and play, and get to interview the CAO of Port Alberni right here in the beautiful valley called Port Alberni, bringing you the wonderful Alberni Valley experience. As I promised, I'm going to do a live stream interview with our CAO, Mike Fox, at 1 o'clock. We're delayed a few minutes, but here we go. Let's do this. I would like to introduce first our guest. My guest for today is Mike Fox, CAO of Port Alberni. Welcome to the show, Mike. Thank you for taking the time. I know you're a busy man.
Well, thank you for having me. You're really busy too. So everybody's busy in their own way.
Yeah, not as much as you. Okay, I'm going to get right into it. Um, the reason I called upon you was some time ago I was interviewing City Council Dustin Dame and Todd Patola, and he said, Dustin suggested I invite Mike Fox, the CAO. I said, that's the first time I heard your name, and that's the first time I heard the term CAO. Like, oh, we have a CAO. Okay. Does every city have a CAO?
Yeah, they're sometimes called city managers.
Okay.
Really, legislatively, the CAO goes sort of in between council and staff administration.
Okay.
So we're a CAO or a city manager is really council's only employee.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So who are the staff that are unionized and everything? They're
employees of the corporation. So the city of Port Alberni is a corporation.
Oh, okay. I'm learning something new.
Yeah, so we're at the municipal level. So we're an agent sort of the province. So there's federal government, and the provincial and municipalities are sort of a makeup of the province. So that's why there's certain things that we do on behalf of residents, but we don't do all things. That's where the province gets involved.
When I posted on Facebook that I'm going to be interviewing a CAO, somebody commented, "What is a CAO?" So would you care to answer that now?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. It's a good... For my benefit and the viewers as well.
Yeah, it's a common question. So first of all, since I am council's only real employee, I'm making sure that council's getting the information they request to make sure that they're making informed decisions to move the city in the right direction. Like currently, we have a great council, very active, very passionate about the community, and is moving in a direction that I think is positive for all of the residents. And for me to help them make really good decisions is by providing information that's making sure that it has all the different perspectives. So when we bring a report to council, we're trying to make sure that it's informed enough that they have the information enough to make an informed decision on a topic. So really, that's one part of a CAO's job, is making sure that we're getting council information they need to make the informed decision. On the other side, we have lots of talented employees. That
That's good to know.
Deliver services. We have lots of great volunteers in the community that also offer services, and then we've also got lots of contractors that are great and offer lots of services. So it's more about service delivery. And for the CAO, we have to make sure that we work with all the directors at the city and the city employees, and make sure we're delivering the service the community wants in the best way possible. So that is for some areas. We get allotted a budget from council, and then we try and meet the mandate of what that budget can do. So if like the pool, we just had some changes there, and it operated to 7 days a week again. But on that, there was some give and take to make sure we were meeting the budget. So as administration, we brought forward lots of recommendations to say, we can have employees at the pool
Mhm.
for this time to make sure we're open 7 days a week, or we don't have to be. So another one would be maintenance on our parks, trails,
Mhm.
etc. And then we have to decide how to move forward with that.
How about our roads?
And roads, yeah, roads is always a big
I'm
topic.
kind of baffled by a certain situation because from time to time, I give a ride to my friends who are in that all those boxes,
Oh, okay.
those box apartments. I call them
Okay.
the condominiums or the
Up on Bird
townhouses.
Street.
And Bird Street has been torn up last year, and then they paved it again, and then they tore it up again, and then they paved it again, and they tore it up again. It's now still torn up. What's happening with Bird Street? Like, I don't know.
Well, yeah, Bird Street is an interesting one because it was a property that council wanted to see developed.
Okay.
So years ago, before my time here, uh, they went out and found a developer to develop the site. Part of that development, they did the water and sewer at different times, but they did a staged development. So you might have noticed only certain parts of
Yeah.
Street were dug up all the time. They only put one lift of asphalt back on because you wouldn't complete the whole street until all the
Oh.
underground services are done. Well, it took until last year to get all the underground services redone.
Uh-huh.
Now we have to do the full street. So
Oh.
now you're creating the
So that
subbase.
coat of asphalt was a temporary thing
Correct.
because it hasn't been completed yet.
Right. So it was only one lift of asphalt, which means
Okay.
so when you usually do asphalt on a road, you do two different lifts, and then it creates the stability to keep the subbase of the road intact. So it doesn't allow water to wash all the fines out. Because if you get that, that's how you start getting all the bumps and ruts on a road. So
Mhm.
it has to have the right amount of sort of camber on it that then can drain into the storm drains.
Oh, I see.
And it's not you don't usually
It's
pave it.
interesting, like things we take for granted. Like I just
Yeah.
drive on the road. I
Right.
never thought like so much work and planning and design or construction that goes into just one road.
Yeah, and then you have the shallow utilities. Everybody has gas services,
Uh-huh.
telephone, all of those things too, right? And if it's underground or above ground, you have all those on the above where the water and sewer utilities are.
Oh, I
So
see.
it is a little complicated. We're moving forward in the city now with making sure that we have an asset management plan. So when we're doing a street, now we're going to do the water, sewer, all the infrastructure at once. So hopefully in future we'll only rip up a street one time,
Uh-huh.
complete it, so it's not multiple years after year after year.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so far that's only happening in Bird, or I'm just aware that's happening in Bird. Are there other places where that's happening as well?
Well, right now it is just Bird. Bird was
Uh-huh.
part of council's priority to finish that area because of the development and because of the ongoing road issues there.
I see.
But 6 has been done. So if you drive down 6,
Okay.
part of the reason why we're doing master plans is to make sure our design and our design standards and everything meet what the community wants. So we don't have streets like 6 where every block looks a little bit different because they use
I never
different
noticed that I
designs.
don't pass it.
So 6 is one you can drive down, but also we're going to be upgrading Argyle coming forward, and that's
Yeah,
part of our.
we're gonna get to that.
Okay,
Okay, we're gonna get to that. I'm dying to get to that.
So there is one other part though for a city manager,
Okay.
and that is talking with the residents, talking with businesses, and being that liaison or helping them either to have access to council for council items that are more political in nature or policy or bylaw related, or make sure that they can contact the right administrative person. So that's the
see.
last part is I have to try and work with senior staff and try and work with them. And then also with the provincial level and federal level administration, and
I
make
see.
sure we're trying to accomplish the best for city residents. So really, overall, it is about being passionate about public service. What can we do for offer the best services for the limited amount of money we have?
Yeah, everybody's on that page, like limited amount of money, because money is limited, especially nowadays. But you did mention a while ago in your early explanation of what a CAO does. You said he provides information, sort of like he does the due diligence on the projects that are going to be undertaken by the city.
Mhm.
What comes what's your involvement when it comes to the execution of these plans or execution of these projects?
Well, again, we have to make sure that we're getting enough information for council so they understand where we're going. So the Somas lands is a good example of that. Council wanted a development partner. So before I got here, they had went out and done the RFP, did the proposal, acquired the land. When I got here, it was more about how do we make sure that we're meeting environmental standards and take down some buildings and start the process to get ready to develop the site. So again, it's making sure that we're meeting all the legal requirements. So that's federally, municipally, provincially.
Environmentally too.
Yeah, exactly. We have to make sure. So part of my job in procurement or anything like that is making sure we're following our policies and making sure if our policies need updating. Let's say sometimes we'll have council talking with the public and they'll say, hey, we need to update X policy or X bylaw. So then administratively, we'll start working on updating it, find out the new information, how other cities are working around, and then taking into the unique perspectives of Port Alberni.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can go on to the next question now. So I did a little research on you, and it says more than 20 years of progressive leadership, experience in municipal environment. If I may, let's go through these concepts that you had put forward. You said a deep understanding of the needs of local government. What exactly are the basic, or better yet, essential needs of a local government? Like you already said, like with great staff, great council.
Well, when it comes to community, a lot of people, what does community mean to you?
Everybody, like a common unity, like
Yeah.
a common interest, a common goal, common vision.
So how do we create that as a city? Because we want to have a complete community. So where provincially their mandate is mental health and addiction, housing, right? But with the local knowledge on the ground, our councillors, our public, our staff actually understand what is needed more, so we can lobby with the government. We can help create that complete community. Now, there's other aspects of making sure we have the right recreation, the right cultural aspects, right? The right parks, that our drinking water is safe, that the sewer isn't just outflowing into the ocean, right? That we can actually get it to our treatment plant. Well, that's a whole other conversation.
That's a whole another episode.
But yeah. So just to make sure that we're trying to form that complete community, and that complete community has to be sort of designed and dedicated from the public. So that's why we're undergoing all the master plans we're going through. We want to have that vision for Port Alberni. What does that complete community mean for Port Alberni?
So in a nutshell, could you tell us, like, what's the vision? I mean, council had just completed his budget.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And we have a how much increase?
This year, it's around a 14% for the average residential family or home.
14%, that means our taxes are going to go up by 14%? Is that?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
But initially it was supposed to be higher than that. But
that works out to be, it depends on where you buy your coffee, but this year for household, it's about, it's 300 and, I think it was 360 or 350. I can't remember the exact dollar figure, but roughly a McDonald's coffee cup, or if you go to Tim Hortons, a coffee cup. If you buy Starbucks, it's about half the cost of it, or that. So that's about roughly it is for a residential family. A lot of that, though, is trying to get back and filling up our municipal reserves. So when you're looking at a municipal budget, a big percentage of that increase is actually for our capital work, such as Bird Street or Argyle.
Okay.
And the reason why...
What exactly is capital work? Like infrastructure?
Yeah, infrastructure, buildings, like roofs, etc. Right? So roofs are expensive.
No,
right?
You're telling me.
Yeah. So like if you didn't save money for that roof and it came due, you have to get a loan or you have to get money somehow. Well, municipal governments, we have to have either reserves or we have to tax for it, or we can get revenue, right? So if we don't have the reserve enough to sort of smooth out that budget, if we had to do a multi-million-dollar repair somewhere, that's all taxation. So what we're trying to do is, as a council and administration, is get our reserves so they're populating, so then we don't have those one-time expenses. Like I believe it was around 8% of the tax increase this year was for capital works.
Okay.
Right? So there's other demands that are outside of our control, but those demands we know about, right? What we're trying to do is create that complete community with a vision for our children's children and make sure our city is still here and prospering when that time comes. So how do we set ourselves up for having success in the future? We have to make sure that we're fiscally responsible now.
That was my next question. Are we fiscally responsible, and from where you stand? Like, before we go to that, so we all are aware of what happened to the Sand Group, and did that somehow affect our economy here in Port Alberni?
Well, whenever a business leaves the community, it's hard. We have job loss. We have lots of those
Tax-based laws.
items. Yeah, well, tax does lose. It is lost. It's based on BC assessment, and when a business closes, sometimes if the person still owns it, they're still taxed a percentage. So sometimes it takes 2 or 3 years to actually realize that full loss. And it's how do we adjust, or how do we fill that site to make sure that we're
Is there a number you
bringing
can
it back?
share with us? Like, how much did you wait? Or are you
I
allowed?
wouldn't want to guess at it
Okay, all right.
because putting that type of information.
But I'm sure it's in the millions. Is it?
Well, again, I wouldn't want to guess at that one. I could get you that
I
number,
don't mean to put you on the
but
spot.
it is significant. Like it was a large business here
He does.
that has a lot of land. Now, the province right now has some bids. They're going through the process to see who actually ends up owning the property. But we, as a municipality, will continue to tax that land, that site. And if the taxes aren't paid, then it goes to tax sale. And that's where we would recoup the lost in taxation.
I see.
Right. So again, as a municipality, we still move forward. Of course, it affects us and it affects everybody. But when you have a large business that's a big employer close, the bigger effect is on our residents, on our community.
Yes.
Right. And then it does increase taxes, of course. Right. But it's how do we deal with that and how do we diversify our economy? So when one business moves out, we have a diverse enough and a spread out economy where it doesn't have as big of an effect on us. And if we have reserves, again, I keep on going back to reserves because
do we have reserves now? Like
we are starting to build them.
Okay.
You'll hear council talking about our IRF. That's our vehicle reserve. So for all our vehicles, when we have a vehicle, we do a life cycle cost, and we put so much money away every year from the department that has that vehicle to be able to replace that vehicle when it comes due with no added taxation.
That's
unless
a good way to do it.
Right, and that's what we want to do with everything. So some of our reserves have been beat up over COVID and over other times. So what council has to do, or is doing, they don't have to do it, but they're making some decisions to make sure that we can rebuild those reserves. So in 2 or 3 years, we have more of a smooth tax increase instead of having all of a sudden we have a big repair and our taxes have to go up 14%. Right? If we had that smoothed out, we might have been at a 5 or a 6% tax increase this year.
I wish.
Right? Well, everybody does, right? So that's the tough decision council has to make because they're out there in the public and they have to decide on what the public has for service levels. And that's why we always come back to service levels because we can do whatever type of service at how much money we have. And that's where some negative things happen this year. Even though we reduced the budget from 19% down to that 14%, but that meant a lot of changes in our community that affects the way we run the city. Right? So that has hardship too on it. So, and again, I don't want to change the topic, but that's the other negative effect of if you cut budgets instead of funding things appropriately. It has the effect on the city the same way as it would in a business.
Well, from what you're telling me now, it's safe to say that Port Alberni is lucky to have you because you have your stuff together. I would say something worse, but you got your stuff together.
Well, I'm lucky to have Port Alberni too.
Well, we'll get to that in a minute. So you mentioned one of the key things I always bring. Oh, before I go to that, you said something about engagement with the community, need to consult with the general public, so to speak, on how you're going to go about things. How exactly do you do that? Do you have open townhouse meetings or something like that?
So just recently we had the master plan community engagement. We had about, I believe it was 4 different master plans going on
The
at the
OCP thing?
Barclay. No,
Okay,
this
so
was
it's
at the Barclay, and it was our active transportation. I believe water and storm was there. Our Parks, Rec, and Culture master plan was there, and we had anybody could come and talk to our consultants, talk to our staff. But really, public engagement, it takes so many forms. So I try and get out. If somebody's willing to put on an event in our community, I try to make it.
I see.
So I try to go everywhere, and I am more than happy to talk to people about our community, how the city is, how we're doing as a
I
city,
see.
or take concerns. I try to meet with anybody if they want to meet with me at City Hall, and try and work with all our service groups. The best way we can consult with our public is be out there in the public to understand what the point of views are. So the more we can meet and gain different perspectives is important to us.
I see.
Now, I'm not involved in social media as much because, that has
Maybe
a
soon
small
you will with
percentage
this
that
program.
is, the small percentage on social media. I don't know. A
No,
lot of
social
their
media
comments
is too
aren't
much
really valid.
noise, and
It's,
yeah,
it's they shouldn't be given the validity
yeah.
because a lot of the stuff that they're talking about is based off of fractured information, not the full story.
And sometimes very petty.
It is very petty, and they seem to target people.
Yeah.
Like I find council is targeted very unfairly.
Especially our mayor. I mean, oh my goodness, how she can put up with all this stuff.
Yeah, like we've got people get into being a council seat not because of the amount of money they make. It's because they're passionate about our community. And then to have some people, without recourse, sort of berate them, I think we should stand up for our councillors more.
That's one of the intentions of my show too. Like, I want to make a positive view of Port Alberni. That's why it's called the wonderful Alberni Valley experience. It's not called the awful Alberni Valley experience.
Well, and you know what? Port Alberni is amazing.
It is
such a welcoming and great people. It's every time I have somebody visit from away, they just rave about the people and the environment we live in here. It is fantastic.
2025 is my 10th year living in Port Alberni. I have not regretted a single day being here. That's why I created the wonderful Alberni Valley.
Well, I'm very appreciative that you have this show. It is a very positive show and really brings a good light to Port Alberni.
Oh, thank you. And I hopefully will be able to continue to do so. So my next question would be, because I did a lot of research. So as far as fiscal responsibility, where do you think we're at? We're on a good place?
Yeah. We have low debt. Some communities I've worked with have a higher debt than we do here. We
have debt.
Everybody has debt.
Well, yeah, even the U.S.
Sort of, do you own any assets? You probably have a little bit of debt. But council's got us started on a really good path with asset management. Again, I talked about reserves. We talked about shifting the way that we're doing our budget to service levels. So we're trying to be more transparent on what each service costs the city.
Oh, okay.
Because if we're going to adjust a service level, we have to understand what that level of funding is. An old way of budgeting about 10, 15 years ago is you go through the line items in the budget and say, hey, oh, that one's not, that one's too big, let's cut that. But line items in a budget are intertwined. Because to offer a service, you either need wages, you need goods and services, you might need human resources for it, you're going to need some financial help. So it's a real complex area. But all in all, in Port Alberni, we are in a good financial spot right now.
Okay, I'll just take a quick break. Jeff, could you hand me my phone? Because I promised the audience I would try to address their questions in the remark section. I just want to see if it's coming out. Thank you. Give me a second. Uh-huh. I should have done this before. Sorry.
No worries.
Okay, we're here now. Okay. Okay, there's a few people watching. Nobody has commented with a question or yet. So anyway, for those of you who are watching, Please feel free to post your questions in the comment section, and we'll try to get to it while we're having our wonderful discussion here. My next question, as I was saying, oh, I got lost. Wait, let me see. Oh, now I want to go to like how you came to become the CAO of Port Alberni. Did we look for you, or did you find us?
Well,
Was it job posting in Indeed or something? I don't know.
It actually was. I was looking for work,
Okay.
and I was leaving where I was currently working, and
Which was Lethbridge.
correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. We had some changes in Lethbridge, and we had a mutual parting there. We
Okay.
didn't decide that we were on the same path.
Okay.
But I love Lethbridge, great spot. But it was time to move on.
So just as a bit of a background, what were you doing in Lethbridge?
So Lethbridge, I was the director of community services.
Okay.
And there I had the lion's share of employees that actually work in Lethbridge, but it included ambulance, fire, community services. It was called community social development, and that was dealing with the all the different social aspects of Lethbridge.
Okay.
We also took the reaching home from the federal government, etc. We had the Parks, Rec, and Culture, Indigenous Relations, several departments there. So it was a great time working there. I bridged two councils. It was, Lethbridge is a fantastic university town. If anybody gets a chance, they should go
So you were
visit.
there from when to when? I have my
I
notes.
was only there for a couple of years.
Okay.
So the 2 years before that, I went into Lethbridge working for a really dynamic CAO. He actually came with a military background.
Wow.
Which was really intriguing to me.
That's interesting.
Yeah, after I was
Military background CAO. Okay.
he was really into housing and social development, which was really intriguing. And then after I'd been there for just over a year, he moved on. So a new CAO came on at the same time. We had a switching council, and just some different direction happened. So I started looking as well at that time, and it was through a mutual friend that I was aware of the CAO posting here. So that's how I ended up coming here. It was a mutual friend put me in touch with the recruiter.
Okay.
And I said, hey, well, that looks like a fantastic spot. Me and my wife lived in Victoria when we first met a long time ago.
Okay.
And only for about a year. But we love the island. We've come out here several times. I've done the West Coast Trail a few times. And
So it was from Alberta, Lethbridge to Victoria.
No. So it was. I met my wife in Banff, and then we moved to Victoria. Then back to Nova Scotia for quite a few years.
Okay.
Then we came back out to Kimberley, BC, and the East Kootenays.
Okay.
Then the North Okanagan in the Okanagan, right by Vernon, and then to Lethbridge, and now to Port Alberni.
Okay, so what happened from Lethbridge to Port Alberni? You see, you were introduced by a recruiter?
Yeah. So I was introduced to the recruiter through a mutual friend.
To whom?
To who?
Oh, to the recruiter.
To the recruiter, yeah.
And how did you end up?
So then the recruiter looks at qualified candidates and brings us into interview with council.
Okay.
You go through a process with council. It took about 4.
You're talking about council here.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, about 4 different interviews in total.
Oh, wow.
And then we came to resolution, and then
how many candidates? I'm just curious. How many candidates were you up against?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't need to know.
Yeah. I mean, the rest is history. I mean, it's already here, right?
That's right. Yeah. So, So then I came here. So that's how I got here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you did the interview, like the whole council interview, was it a panel interview?
I don't think all the council members were there, but it was most of council, and the recruiter were there, and I believe also our HR manager or our HR director.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, the mayor was present as well. We had most of council there. I had a great conversation. Learned about all the amazing things that are in their corporate strategic plan and sort of their vision for the community, and that really put a hook. With the development of the SOMAS lands, what a bold step!
Yeah.
To do that. I've worked on reclaiming sites before, but nothing to the scale of the SOMAS. That's a really big site. And then the key-to-key pathways. I've been involved in making rail trails, the Vernon to Kelowna rail trail.
Oh, wow, really?
And some of those rail trails. So lots of fun rail trails. And this key-to-key one was quite impressive. The Roger Creek Trail, lots of neat initiatives there, and a really good director team too. So I was quite excited to come and dig in and get to know the community.
So surely you are one who can share a wonderful Alberni Valley experience.
Yes, for sure.
So what would you rate as your number one or top three wonderful Alberni Valley experiences? Like
since I've been here, I love the mountain biking.
Okay.
And that's right here. I
you have a mountain bike or an electric bike?
I mountain bike. Yeah, I know. I mountain bike. We've got Hockey Valley for a reason, right? The hockey scene here is fantastic. I play some hockey, but the Bulldogs are great. I love our waterfront. Salmon fishing. You can't beat that, right? So salmon fishing are great. The relationship with the nations too is fabulous, you know, and the respect between the nations and the city is a fantastic environment. It is so positive. We're doing a sort of a small project through the Community Economic Development Initiative, which was the Hapachasett, Seashot, and the city of Port Alberni down at Clutha Marina. And we're putting some sea cans down there to create a little gathering spot.
Oh, wow, really?
It was everybody's intent to have Clutha Haven as a gathering spot for all the community visitors that are visiting. And the sea cans will be wrapped in Indigenous art, which is fantastic. So that was a big experience. But I got to say, I love the breweries. I love the distilleries, right?
We have how many now? I think 4. Dog Mountain, Twin City, Alberni, and Antidote. Okay, 4. If I miss out anybody, you just message me on the board. Okay, now let's talk about the highlights of what's going on in Port Alberni. So you mentioned something that's kind of controversial, like on the news. Some people are like, let's talk about the rotunda or the roundabout.
Oh, the roundabout.
Okay,
yeah.
That's like, if any issue in any project, there's always the pros and the cons, and that's what I help Mayor Shari all her critics. I mean, never mind the critics. Jesus Christ had so many critics. Like, all right, so we're in good company. I think you're not getting crucified yet.
Yeah, there we go.
Physically. Well, so the rotunda.
Yeah.
Wouldn't some people are of the opinion wouldn't a stoplight be more expedient and practical than a rotunda or something?
Yeah. So
could you enlighten us on that?
Yeah. So anywhere where actually 3 roads blend, the long-term solution of a roundabout is actually more effective.
Okay.
And at that spot there also, because of the backup to the Johnson Street light, the distances are so tight that a roundabout is going to keep that traffic flowing. If you would have put a light there, you would have had backup on backup.
They're too close to each other.
Yeah.
I see.
So
that makes sense. Now that you mentioned it.
Yeah, and it's a ministry project. So really the city has been on the sidelines being able to give a little advice, just like the Hapachasett and the Seashot and other groups that need to inform. I know Public has been been invited to add their comments. The design is done. I know that in the center it'll have a great art piece, but roundabouts are typically more safe than your regular lights. So I'm not an expert in traffic safety, but I've seen roundabouts lots of places, and even in Europe that are used a lot. You'll see them more and more on the island, and they're a very effective way.
Qualicum's pretty nice.
Yeah, and it also acts as a traffic calming. You don't see people flying through them. You gotta come on, you go through, and it keeps the traffic just moving, and at a good pace. So I don't think it's too complicated of a roundabout. So it'll have
it's a simple roundabout. It's nothing. Yeah. It's not rocket science or anything. But so there's going to be the roundabout. But I read in the paper there was this date for completion and it was moved. So what happened?
Well, I think what they did is they set the project dates, got the funding, got the design to, I believe it's at 98% or 100% now. I'd have to look on the transportation website for the province. But so They started their ARC studies and stuff like that, and I believe they were a little bit delayed there. And to start a construction project like that in the middle of the summer would be interesting, to say.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing they put it off to next year so they can start at the right time, make sure that they have the design finalized. You might see them preload. So that means actually put land on top of the ground so it actually compacts more. So you might see them do some of that this year. I'm not sure the full plan, but I know that the plan is to move forward with the full construction next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of roads, were you here when the Highway 4 was closed and the landslide and all that stuff? And there was some grievous economic effect on us. I mean, we lost a lot of money that way. So, and fire season's coming up again. What is there anything in place or being planned to make sure that doesn't happen again?
I think all my conversations with the province, they're on top of the Cameron Bluffs area. BC Wildfire is aware of the threats and the risks around the area. That event was very unfortunate, and any community that has one way in, one way out is susceptible for that. And that's part of the reason why I believe our hospital is considered a rural hospital, and that we do have other challenges. I think the still in place is the alternative route, which is about 3 hours on the gravel roads, which is not a perfect solution at all. And I know the province also.
That's just the last resort.
That's right. I did it, I think, 6 or 7 times in total.
I've heard of it, but I will not dare bring my car there.
Yeah, well, if you aren't used to driving on gravel roads, you're probably better to stay off. I liked it that they did organize convoys and they did work with gas trucks, food trucks, etc., to make sure that the supplies could still get to Port Alberni. But the economic impact to the region and to the coast was massive, and it also caused some of our larger industries here trouble getting the chemicals they needed or the products they needed to run their businesses. So I know the ministries about it. We council advocates on behalf of having an emergency route or a second route into Port Alberni at every chance we get to talk to ministers. I'm sure we're going to AVICC this weekend, and I'm sure some of the councillors will be talking to ministers and others about the possible route. Yeah.
Okay, let's go to other developments that are met up with a little bit of controversy. The bump outs on Argyle. Could you share with us the concept, the reason, the logic, the rationale? Why do we need these bump outs?
Well, Port Alberni is blessed with very large streets.
Yes, that's one of the sort of like selling points.
Well, some people would be a selling point, but people that are actually into active transportation or walking, it's actually a deterrent. We have more pedestrians struck in Port Alberni than a lot of cities.
Really?
Yeah, and it's because it's the distance to cross that wide road. With also having 4 lanes,
crosswalks that you can walk on.
Well, but there is that, but if you have, let's say, 4 vehicles side by side coming up on each other, not everybody sees what's happening at the crosswalk. So we do have
blind side.
That's right. So really, we don't meet the traffic data to have a 4-lane street on Argyle. Really,
not anymore.
You could.
Used to, maybe, because of the logging that was going on back then.
Is that the right street to have your main logging trucks coming down?
Well, during the time.
And that's another discussion, right? And, I'm sure that we'll get it right eventually. But, having a single lane of traffic and then the bump outs coming out reduce that safety concern for people crossing it. And we really want to activate our downtown core. Right, we want people to have sidewalk cafes and be able to use the streetscape as a benefit.
Yeah,
you see the ministry putting bump outs right now on Johnson. Why are they doing that at Adelaide? Is because we've had a lot of pedestrians struck there. So they're moving out that. They're going to have flashing lights there. They're going to try and bring more light to that. Now, Johnson's a little bit different. It's a little busier.
Yeah.
And you might need those 2 lanes.
All that construction does not help me getting to work on time. But anyway,
there you go.
I managed. So the bump outs was an idea from the council?
Well, it's actually in lots of transportation design lines across Canada, the US, as a way of having that area, instead of being behind parked cars trying to cross, you're bumped out. So the parked cars are here and you're standing out so traffic can see you. Then you have the light and then you can cross the road. So the bump outs is just really for pedestrian safety. And then if you're having bike lanes, it's better to have them back behind the bump out. So then you don't have bikes also interfering with that, causing more congestion or risk to other types of accidents. So that's the concept behind bump outs, which is a standard that's used across Canada and the States. It's just Port Alberni, we're just getting to that point of getting our design standards up to the MMCD standard, or also having the community context.
Okay. I was reluctant to bring this up, but there's this program that went to the papers and the radio, the community police program. Are you aware of that? Are you okay discussing a little bit about it? Okay.
Yeah.
So
I think the community policing is a great program and has a lot of dedicated volunteers.
I was one of them.
Okay. Well, and that do great work, and really working with the officer in charge for the RCMP. That program hasn't changed. We're still trying to run it. What changed through hard and difficult budget discussions was the management structure at the city. And when we have changes in management structure, hard decisions have to be made. So the community policing program is great. We're hoping it continues, and we're hoping a lot of the volunteers still feel that is where they want to dedicate their time. We need that community policing program. It helps people feel safe. It gives RCMP data to understand where they have to do traffic or check stops and stuff like that. The data we get from those volunteers and the effort they put in couldn't be replaced. So we're hoping to continue that, but through a really difficult budget time, council had some very difficult decisions to make.
Okay. So yeah, like the decision to take away the manager position of Dave Couson and give it to Mary Claire.
It wasn't given to anybody.
I thought she was the one in charge of the program now. That's why they were consulting with the volunteers.
For the interim, it is. But really, Mary Claire is the safety and social development manager. She's in charge also of a lot of other initiatives.
Exactly. So
there's a large part. So it wasn't. She's overseeing that. She was Dave's manager too.
Yeah.
Right. And through these hard discussions, you'll hear this all the time out in public. A lot of people believe that there's too many managers at the city. Right. And when we deal with things and cut projects, there is results that have happened, and they've happened across the city. So that wasn't the only service that was affected. Great employees. Nobody said anything negative about the employees.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And a great program. It's just we didn't have.
I don't know if you were aware, but Nanaimo was coming here to Port Alberni because of the way Dave was running it, and they wanted to take a page out of his book.
Well, and
because he was a very excellent manager of the program.
I agree, and you know what? They're probably still going to take a page out of the book. A manager's legacy is that it continues on after they're gone.
That's true.
So anywhere that I've led, I want to leave my imprint. I want to do the community a benefit, right? And I believe all the managers at Port Alberni have that same mantra. And, the manager of community policing was no different.
Yeah, I agree.
Passionate about it, great person, set it up for success, and hopefully it continues years to come. Right? It wasn't about the program. It was about hard financial discussions. And we've had them across the whole city. That's just one that garnered some attention, right? Again, it's volunteer hours. It's a very difficult decision that was made. So again, nothing about the person.
No, I'm not saying that. Yeah. But because you did say early on that you're the one in charge of gathering the information and presenting it to council, so that they can make a educated or well-informed decision. Right? And the decision came to that they had to relieve the manager of the program, and then So who's the manager of the program now? It's under Mary Claire.
It is under in the interim, and we're working to see how best to support the program moving forward.
I see.
So, hopefully in the fall, we'll be able to strategize and make sure we have that with the correct data. Again, a lot of really good data is collected through community policing.
Oh, I'm there in their meetings. I can see the data. They're very thorough. They're very meticulous about all that stuff.
So what's the best way we can support the community moving forward? And that's where we are right now. Is there more to come on that chapter of that safety element for Port Alberni? Yes.
Okay.
And well, that's good to know. We have to keep our eyes open, and we have to make sure that
there's anybody asking questions about that.
Sure.
I don't see anybody. Wait, lower my volume. Live.
But again, we have volunteers all across the community, and without volunteers, you really can't have that complete community.
Yeah.
And
well, there were a handful of volunteers affected by it. From where I stand, though, it just like the change happened so fast, so quickly, and then everybody was thrown at a loss. And of course, there's the loyalty to Dave. Of course, I mean they've been working with Dave for so long. So and I have too many things on my plate anyway, so I had to recluse myself. But I did not resort to like putting negative things on other people. I went to Mary Claire and talked to her as well.
Well, that's great. Right. And really, it's tough for Mary Claire too.
I know.
Like a lot of people, like Mary Claire and Dave are friends too.
Yes, I know.
And really, the community in a whole, anytime there's service reductions, there's one thing that everybody can count on not liking. It's either people want it either not like they don't like change or things to say status quo. So if any of that changes, then there's effects. And whenever we make budget changes, it's probably safe to say 70% or roughly of our budget is staff wages. So when there are cuts, it automatically affects staffing. And then it's how do we deliver the service the best way for the community, right? And that's not to get rid of a program. That's the last resort. We try to make sure we can maintain a service. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to be the same service.
Yeah.
Because it has been reduced. Right. That's the hard discussions we've had on multiple service levels across the city.
So could you just for the benefit of the people watching, and there were, at most 30 people affected by this whole thing. Some stayed on, some, I guess it's also their loyalty and friendship with Dave. So if Dave's not there, I'm not there. And so how could we ease the pain?
Well, I difficult decisions, I don't believe there's any way of doing that. Change is hard.
It is.
Especially when it's a change fundamental to why somebody is volunteering. So in any volunteerism, I would just say to all those volunteers that, the city is here. We hope that you continue volunteering. And if there's any way we can help you or support you through this change, to let us know. And if you decide to volunteer with another agency or another group, or if you're looking for it, the city is just one avenue to volunteer. There are so many great organizations across this community that you can put your volunteer hours towards. And I would recommend to go volunteer there if you have any extra time. But really, all of us, when something changes in our life, we have to work through it. The best way to do it is have honest conversations. It's hard. A lot of the conversation nowadays goes to the negative automatically, and people have a hard time to sit down and just have a conversation, being objective.
Some people don't even know how to have a conversation anymore. They're so used to just texting.
That's right. That's right. Or posting something.
And then just leave it there.
But volunteerism is a lost art. So in any way that we can help ease that and move volunteers to keep on volunteering in our community, they should talk with the city. Again, my office is open. I'm more than happy to make a meeting with anybody.
Oh, that's good.
And
Or
and
meet
have
you
a
in the theater.
conversation.
I bumped into you
Yeah.
in the theater twice.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, we're going to another show coming up, I think.
Oh,
I think
well,
there's
you should
another
come to my show, but it's not going to be here.
Well, you got to let me know where it is.
It's in the Echo Theater in Qualicum. I'm
Okay.
the part of the cast of Kinky Boots. It's coming in July and August. I'm one of
That's
the
one of our
four
favorite
angels.
movies, so I would love to see you in that.
I will
I would
send
love to
you a
see you in
link. Premiere tickets are already sold out.
it. Oh, okay.
Anyway, what are the three top issues that are being addressed by the city now? Is it housing, drug, criminal activity?
Well, again, so
Is it housing?
all of
I think
those
it's a
big
big.
ones, housing is a definite need in our community. There's only a small amount a municipality can do about housing. It really falls under the provincial mandate, and the City of Port Alberni Council understands that's a need and works with the province in any way it can to
That's
help that.
wonderful.
Crime is always in most communities now. Mental health and addiction is also one of those that continues to haunt municipalities across Canada, the states, everywhere. And one thing the City of Port Alberni Council is very adamant with the province about, if you want to try a pilot project, if you want to do something to see if you can make a difference, Port Alberni is open. Let's have that conversation and let's do better for our residents, especially the most vulnerable. And that is an area where we are focused on, and we continue to talk to the province. We talk with RCMP. We talk to other service agencies, other communities on what they're doing, and what can we bring to Port Alberni to better those issues. But it always comes back to housing. If somebody doesn't have safe, stable housing, it ends up leading into other things. So to have that safe, stable housing for some people means that you have to have 24/7 care. You need somebody that makes sure that you can continue living in a space for a long time, especially with mental health issues. You need to be able to either you may be on medication, you may need counseling, you may need a work group to be around each other to make sure that you can be successful in that housing.
And so, So, how many RCMP officers do we have now? This is just out of the blue. Because going back to the police thing, I heard. I don't know how accurate my information is. So, you had to take away the management position for the program, and then in the interim, give it to Mary Claire, who's still catching up on it as well, because she does admit that she doesn't know anything of the program. And the poor woman, why did you do that to her? Like, was that the best option?
Well, so you have to remember there's two budgets in the RCMP. So there's the municipal side, right? And then there's the RCMP budget, which is done through contract with the province.
Okay.
Through UBCM. So currently we fund up to 34 officers. We very rarely get up to 34. So we're usually running between 30 and 32 officers. And I know our new OIC officer in charge is trying to make sure that we have 34 in our community to make sure we do the best. They have very complex jobs.
Why that number? Does it have to do with the population, the rate of crime?
Not really. So if you look at the population versus officers, we should be around 25 to 27.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Right? So that is a statistics out there, but that's only one statistic. So remember when we talked about talking with partial information?
Yes.
That's the danger, because we have very complex crime and files in Port Alberni.
Yeah.
Typically because where we are located, but also many other attributes. So it makes policing in Port Alberni complex.
Really?
So if you watch the upcoming council meeting, the officer in charge will be doing a presentation talking about crime stats and everything at our next council meeting.
I understand. Who is our officer now?
Her name's Kim.
Kim, yeah, I've heard it. So she's like, what do you call her? Police chief?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and they call it officer in charge, but it's a police. It's a police chief.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they liaison with me, and we work together, but they report to the RCMP. They function under contract with the municipality, and but a big issue that
Well,
we
another big issue tying into the fiduciary or fiscal responsibility.
That's right.
Right.
And that one there is the way that the funding formula for municipalities like ours are set up.
Okay.
So an example of that is back, I believe it was in '97, there used to be officers that were actually paid for by the federal government because we are a port authority.
Okay.
Right? And part of that, that funding was cut back in '97, but the municipality maintained the level of officers.
So on our pocket.
Right. So
Okay.
again, there's other. So we have similarities with. We're a hub for the region. We have a courthouse. We have lots of acreage around the city, out to the coast, where we are the hub. And being a hub brings the hub of criminal activity too.
Oh.
Right. So people come here. Right. And the courthouse here, everything else makes it a more complex city. Where if you were downtown Victoria and you have all these other cities that you're walking on the sidewalk and you're crossing those municipal boundaries, it's harder to tell. Right. But so the crime's more spread out. So there's lots of indicators. I'm really.
So you mean to tell me
really
our setup makes us like a centralization of criminal activity?
Well,
because we have the port.
Not fully that way, but
in a way,
it's the funding model that also comes along with that, right? And we believe that the funding model needs to be shifted to take into account that we have a courthouse here, that we are a gathering spot. The different levels of government should be having to fill in where it's part of their responsibility. So in no way am I saying that others should have to pay more. I'm just saying that, and the mayor actually is way more apprised of this situation. She's really good to talk to about this.
She grew up here.
Yeah, and but really the funding model. If you look at the RCMP release for all communities in BC, how much funding and our funding. You'll see a report. Our Chief Financial Officer brings them forward, and he's talking about how other places receive their funding for RCMP and where we fall. We're one of the highest per person, like per population, in BC for paying for RCMP services.
Wow!
So we aren't saying that the services aren't necessary. What we're saying is the funding formula should be changed to recognize certain attributes to lessen the burden on taxpayers.
So we have that assurance that you are on it on this matter.
I am as much as I can be, but more or less council is all over this one and really trying to work for the residents of Port Alberni to make sure that we're funded in an appropriate way.
That's so good to know. We're almost out of time, so I will let you close by sort of like wrapping up to the public who are watching, like what's in store, and to to encourage them to have positive attitude and stop criticizing our council and our mayor and our CAO. Like criticizing doesn't help anyway. Like complaining doesn't help, but collaborating does, communicating does. So take it away. Just appeal to the public.
Sure. Please. Yeah. So for everybody that's watching or sees this podcast, innovation is how we make a difference. And Port Alberni has many really great minds out there. How can we be innovative together to make a big difference and make that complete community? How do we, instead of being naysayers, come with solutions to complex problems? The only way we will move forward as a community and prosper is to have a collective impact process. And that's bringing all groups, all knowledgeable subject matter, and thinking outside of the box. Being innovative is how we will. How do we diversify our economy? How do we be welcoming to tourists and new residents to make sure that we create the Port Alberni that we want? I know council is focused on that. You've got very passionate council right now that is very focused on the community and tries not to listen to all that noise. But if you see something positive in our community, reach out to council and say, good job. You know, nobody does that.
No.
And we don't
I
give
do.
our counselors a pat on the back, you know.
I
But
try to do it as much as I can.
yeah, and because we do have a great community.
We do.
We have a lot of positive things going on. And people seem to focus in on this small narrative and then blow it out of proportion based on very limited facts. And instead of doing that, can you imagine if we put all that time, all that energy to make that positive difference in our community, how great this would be, no matter who's on council or who's in administration. That's the way Port Alberni is going to thrive. And I think that's what we have to focus on to move Port Alberni to the next step.
There you have it. Our major, wonderful Alberni Valley experience. I call them, people like you and some other people, I call them wave makers. You create a wonderful Alberni Valley experience. We're so glad we have you, Mike, and thank you for coming on the show.
Well, thank you.
And I look forward to having you again on another episode to talk about some more other issues. I'm sure there are really other issues that will be coming up in the future. Maybe you and Shari can be here, or I'll do some arrangements. But anyway, that's all the time we have today. Thank you for catching the wave and watching the wave. We'll see you next time on The Wave.